There was a Japanese boy named Kei who had a very strange dream. In the dream, he found himself wandering through school. It was not his school. It was a school he did not recognize. It was night, and the school was in darkness. The sound of footsteps echoed down the empty hallways. It was very eerie. He tried to open the doors and windows, but they were all locked. He tried banging on them as hard as he could, but the glass would not crack. The school was large and sprawling. It was like a maze. It didn't even seem to make sense. Walking down one corridor would bring him back again to the place where he was before. It was very strange, as if the normal rules of time and space did not apply. Kei was starting to get scared. He began to run down the hallway. The corridor stretched on and on without end, and there was no exit. After running past the same set of classrooms several times, Kei noticed something odd. The corridor was an endless loop. No matter how long he ran down the corridor, he would always find himself back at the start. He decided to try a different route. He ran down the hallway to the right, then took the first left, and then the first left again. He entered the home economics room, and when he went out the door on the other side, he found himself in another hallway. He entered the art room, and then went out on the other side again. Somehow, it brought him to the third floor, next to the girls' toilets. He went through the music room and ran down the hallway past another set of classrooms. He came to a set of stairs and went down. He just kept wandering and wandering. The night seemed to last forever, and he felt like dawn would never come. Kei heard the muffled sound of a clock chiming. When he looked up, he saw a clock. The hands were swinging back and forth like a pendulum. Kei heard the echo of heavy footsteps chasing him. He was too scared to look behind him and desperately wanted to escape. He ran up a set of stairs that should have taken him to the fourth floor, but instead, he found himself on the first floor, outside the audiovisual room. The footsteps began to get faster and faster. He ran down the corridor and turned left, left again, right, and left again. He came out in front of another set of classrooms. At the end of the hallway, there was an emergency exit, but the glass box that housed the key was smashed and the key was missing. There was a note inside that said the key was in classroom 108. The footsteps were coming closer and closer. Kei ran down the stairs. He turned left, ran down the hallway, then turned right and right again. He found himself outside a classroom. On the door, there was a sign that read 108. Kei tried the door, and it opened. He stepped inside and shut the door behind him. The classroom was in darkness, and he could barely see. He flicked the light switch, but it didn't work. The classroom was filled with desks, and there were bags hanging on the back of each chair. Kei started searching desperately through them. He looked in every bag, searched in every drawer. All the while, he could hear footsteps coming down the hallway. Before long, he heard something banging loudly against the door of the classroom. Kei still couldn't find the key he was looking for. He pulled the drawers out of the desks and tipped them onto the floor. He opened the bags and began dumping the contents out on the floor. The sound of the banging grew louder and louder. The door seemed like it was about to come off its hinges. He searched desperately, but he still couldn't find the key. Just then, the knocking on the door suddenly stopped. There was an eerie silence. Kei stood there, trembling, waiting with bated breath. He stood there in the darkened classroom, afraid to move a muscle. After a while, he still couldn't hear anything, so he went to the door. He reached out, turned the handle, opened it gently, and peered out into the corridor. What he saw horrified him, and a scream died in his throat. There were countless boys and girls. They were in pieces. Their heads, arms, and legs were severed from their torsos. The floor was awash with blood, and they were dancing, jerking back and forth, their limbs flailing to and fro in a dance of death. Kei was drawn into the dream. His body remained asleep. He was never able to wake up. Even today, he's still wandering through the school in his mind. Now that you've heard this story, please, try to forget about it. If you don't forget about the story within a week, you will have the same dream, in which you will find yourself wandering around the school. You will have to find the key and escape through the emergency exit before you come across the pieces of boys and girls who dance, or you will be drawn into the dream.